Hey everybody, this is the Half Court Press podcast, and Nebraska and Creighton are off to their season start, both 1-0. I'm Sam McKewon along with Tom Shatel and Wilson Moore. We should have an update next week on the Creighton beat writer job, so we will have someone hopefully in this seat in a week or two for this role. But for as it stands right now, I'm sort of moderating with these two gentlemen who Tom was at both games, Nebraska and Creighton, and Wilson was at the Monday night spectacular. At least for one half, it was spectacular. Nebraska beating Lindenwood. What was the final? 91-54?
Or
84-52?
Yeah, 84. Yeah, I don't think they cracked 90.
Okay.
One started with an 8 and one started with a 5.
There you go. Kind of a rough second half, and then Creighton goes 105-54 over Florida A&M.
And they got stuck for about 2-3 minutes. They weren't scoring. They got stuck. I mean, I was looking at it. They were at 80 with like 6 minutes to go.
They're fun, man. And Florida A&M, they go to Lincoln tomorrow. So I guess Nebraska got a scout. I don't know. It was Creighton's a different team than Nebraska, and we'll get into that here in a minute. I want to remind everybody to listen to the Pick Six podcast, which is mostly Husker related, but also to subscribe to the Omaha World-Herald. You can do that at www.omaha.com/subscribe. Right now, you get 6 months for $1. Today is November 8th. That's going to take you all the way through the first month of transfer portal season next year for Nebraska and Creighton. And everybody knows how much Nebraska loves their transfer portal. And Creighton got one of its best new players, Stephen Ashworth, out of the transfer portal. So that takes you through the entire basketball season. If you sign up now, all the Huskers, all the Jays, all the Husker men, all the Husker women, all the Jay women, all the Jay men, all those games. Plus Nebraska football for those Jayskers. Okay, let's start with Creighton, 105-54. God, that was beautiful basketball for, 30 minutes. I mean, that's as good as it's looked in a long time on offense.
Yeah, I think this has a chance to be Mac's best team and one of his all-time favorite teams. These guys are all about college basketball. They're not trying to go to the NBA. They're not trying to, a couple of them are trying to go to the NBA, but the focus is really on sharing the ball. They don't have Ryan Nembhard, who was a great point guard, but they 9 guys had assists last night, so they all shared the ball. They're all point guards. They all. When you have that many guys who are going to pass the open man, you don't necessarily need a point guard. And they've got 2 guys that are going to be close enough, Trey Alexander and Ashworth. So, the other thing they're going to miss is Arthur Kaluma, who is very talented, could be a physical presence, but he was a ball stop. The ball didn't move sometimes when he got it, and he sometimes did his own thing. And they are a machine right now, and they're Sam, I probably I don't know how many Final Fours I've covered or things like that, but I know a Final Four team when I see one, and they're a Final Four team.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty fun to watch. You talk about angles, threes, the ball not hitting the ground. It was just very little dribbling.
They haven't even got Kalkbrenner going yet because people are trying to take him away. Because what else we're supposed to do? They're going to make the strategy last year was to make Creighton shoot threes, and in Nebraska's case, the Jays missed a bunch of them, and the Huskers ended up winning. It was a great strategy. Well, I'm not sure that strategy is going to. Ashworth doesn't miss. Mason Miller is. Isaac Trout, these guys are all excellent shooters. Somebody's off, somebody's going to be on. I really think Kalkbrenner is going to start opening up. We haven't even got to that what he's going to bring to the offense. So they'll be as good as anybody in the country soon.
Yeah, I feel like what I saw when you mentioned Kalkbrenner. What I saw on last night was an offense that's just kind of playing around with the new toys to start. And they'll get back to the other toy. But you got Ashworth out there, and Shireman looked like a different player. Like he was just didn't hesitate on anything. He looked different. He was like, this is the Shireman that we couldn't see when Nemhard was a point guard, because Baylor Shireman, you put him, spot him up, and he'll just shoot threes all night.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like a whole different team. I think defensively they were very good. I thought Francisco Farabello did some things off the bench.
Yeah.
You mentioned you think they have a bench this year, and last year
They didn't have a bench
didn't.
last year. This year they do. They get in the game. They're going to produce. I think Pierce Farabello is going to shoot better. Isaac Trout's going to shoot, and when they get in the game, they're not going to lose the lead. They're going to add to it. You've also got Frederick King. Well, okay, you're playing these guys, and a Kalkbrenner goes out, and you go, whew, thank God he's out. And here comes Frederick King going, holy crap, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yes.
I mean, very few teams in the country have that.
Right.
Now, UConn did a little bit. So their bench is going to be not as scary as the first five, but they're going to be able to. And now we see last night Josiah Dotzer's playing.
Oh, yeah.
He ain't sitting. He's playing because he's shown in practice he's going to go to the rim. He's aggressive. He's not afraid of the moment. So they're going to ease him in. But think about what he'll do by January, February. So it's a team with a lot of options. Now defense may be occasionally optional. I think Kalkbrenner it's going to be all the defense you need sometimes. But with that offense, really, who cares?
Oh, it hummed. And the Big East, it's a good defensive league, but I wouldn't describe it as like they're going to just shut you down. Creighton had lots of games last year where they scored a lot of points, so I do feel like it's going to fit in just fine. Watch St. John's before the Creighton game, and St. John's is good. They're good. And so that'll be they're going to play them on Madison Square Garden in like 2 months on CBS. That's pretty sweet. That's right there.
This is a league in transition. It's a good year for I think Creighton to have this kind of team. I think St. John's and Georgetown are going to elevate in the next couple of years. I'm not saying the league is going to go toward the East, but this is a loaded Creighton team, and I'm not even sure UConn's as good as they were. So, it's Marquette. Can Marquette play that way 2 years in a row? We'll see. Sometimes it's harder to do it again, although they fell short in the tournament, so they'll want to get back and take care of that. But we have the NCAA tournament here, and Creighton can't be here, but they're again just looking at the kind of team they have. It's a team that's how you win in the tournament. You make a lot of shots. You have guards.
For sure.
That's why you win in the NCAA tournament.
As a note, Arthur Kaluma goes 1 for 11 in their loss to USC. Kansas State's loss to UNC. He scores 6 points and gets 9 rebounds, goes 1 for 11. Iowa scored 110 points, and we will not have a podcast again before the Iowa game, which is next Tuesday night, about midnight, right? 9 p.m.
It may go till midnight.
It might. I'll just say this. On the right night, Iowa can beat a lot of teams if they hit a lot of threes. So, Creighton cannot go into that game and think, hey, we're just going to score 85 and call it good. They'll have to play defense against Iowa because Iowa has, on some nights, Iowa can play with basically anybody. So I guess we'll see what happens. Wilson, Nebraska. And Tom, I'll ask you about Nebraska too. That was an incredible first half. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. You haven't seen a lot of Nebraska basketball games. We both have. They haven't had many halves like that in recent years on offense. And so what did you see maybe early in that game, not only from the two post players, but the backcourt?
Yeah, I saw a team that really likes to run, a team that said all preseason, hey, we're going to try to push the pace, we're going to move, and they did that. They, the post players, Alec and Mast, got rebounds, were immediately turning up the court, looking for an outlet, guys streaking down the sidelines. Team that can shoot, obviously, are they going to...
Or did for one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going to shoot 8 for 12 at one point from 3? No. Every game, no. But, it's a team, as we saw, that has a capability of making 3-pointers. Has a lot of guys who, if you leave them open, can make you pay, can knock down a 3-pointer. It's going to open up a lot for that offense. So and I know it obviously comes with they're playing Lindenwood. I think 351 in Ken Palm's preseason ranking. So there's all of that to consider. But I think we saw what this team can do, what it can look like when it's got everything rolling, and I think a bit more potential from this team than maybe some previous iterations of Nebraska.
And you like the post, not only the game, but the post-game press conference from Alec and Mast.
You don't judge those things, but I'd never talked to them before. They, last year, Sam Griesel changed everything with that program. That program really did not have a lot of definition. It was, the guys going to the NBA or doing this or that, or they weren't playing defense. They didn't have an edge. I thought Griesel brought that edge, maturity, a veteran leader, and so I'm sitting there going, well, okay, they're going to miss him, but now these two guys walk into the room, and they both own the room. They're both telling you this is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. I mean, Alec is like leaning over the table, pointing at people, talking about what they're going to do and in practice. And we need to get guys to do this and that. And it's just like he's in charge, and that's what they need. To me, Wilson didn't see last year that the edge is still there. They're crashing the boards hard early. That's a good thing. They made a lot more threes. They took more threes, but they've got guys who can do that now. What we don't know is what is Case saying. He changes any game just by being on the court, and how does that all work together? I think the two big guys are going to love him because he's going to attract people out there, and they can throw it into them, and then they can do all their acrobatic shots. But they're so good with their hands are on the basket, on the rim. I thought there was a lot to like. But again, I'd love to see Juwan Gary get on the team again and get on the court.
A couple games you think Wilson before he does that?
Again.
Yeah, we talked to Fred, an hour ago. Juwan won't play tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's as much of an update as we've gotten.
But he's a defensive guy. He could put him on anybody in the conference, and he's gonna shut him down. He's just one of those guys who you have to have, and so he's a big reason to beat Creighton last year. He kind of muscled them a little bit and threw them off their game. They weren't used to seeing somebody from Nebraska do that. So a lot to like. I bet the two big guys, I think, really are going to fill a gap between Walker and Griesel.
Really like some other things that I liked. First of all, you're going to go on the road next Saturday when we go to Wisconsin for a football game. You'll be in Sioux Falls to watch them play Oregon State, and they're a better team than Oregon State, I think, in a lot of ways. But I'll say this much. You go to a gym like that, and you don't know. You can't guarantee you're going to shoot 40% from three. So you better bring things along with you that don't require good shooting. And the things that I feel like I saw, one, C.J. Wilcher played one of his better games. He's lost weight. He's quicker. Defensively, I think he played pretty well. And then Sam Hoiberg.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy can play basketball.
Yeah. Just brings energy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think to Tom's point, I think, before they got hot from three, I think they were 1 for 5 from deep, but it was noticeable just the energy they were playing with. They were getting out on guys in the perimeter. They were jumping into passing lanes, crashing the boards. And that will help, buoy them in stretches when they aren't making shots, just how hard they play. And I think Sam Hoiberg exemplifies that. He is all over the court. He plays so hard on defense. He had a couple passes the other night where he just
skipped it up.
Yeah, hit a guy in stride, threaded the needle. There's a lot he can do for this team.
That's right. Was Fred he was a quarterback in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, like his dad.
Well, Sam is a really interesting case because he comes off the bench. You feel like he's like a team leader, and he's got a lot of credibility. Not because he's the coach's son, right? Or because he's a big fan favorite, or he has a radio show. It's because he does it. He's on the floor. He makes plays. He hustles his butt off. I mean, he's out there leading the way, and I think and to have that off the bench is really interesting to me. It's like, okay, he's probably coaching and leading on the bench, but when he gets on the court, everybody's kind of taking a break or doing this or that. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
So, he's a fun guy.
Fred's deepest team so far. I do think there'll be nights when Sam starts. CJ started, right? Was that accurate?
Yes, he did.
There's going to be nights when I think CJ's on the bench and Sam is starting.
Of course, someone in that quintet, one of the guards, will get bumped to the bench when Casey's back, obviously.
I agree. I think so. I think there's also going to be nights when maybe Josiah doesn't start.
Yeah.
When he's on the bench and they're doing some other things. But it was an interesting opening game. I thought, again, Nebraska did a lot of good things. They'll always beat a team like Lindenwood, but sometimes Nebraska only wins that game by 9. And this time they won.
Oh, I've seen them lose those kind of games
right.
too. Yeah.
Incarnate Word and what's another one? Western Illinois. So they've lost those games too, and that goes back a long time. Danny Nee once lost to Grambling, I think, in his own classic. So it happens.
They had to take his name off the classic.
They did. That's right. So, to see Nebraska do what it's supposed to do was actually kind of surprising and uncommon. They play Florida A&M.
Tomorrow.
And then they play before, if you correct me if I'm wrong, they play before our next podcast, right? They play next week, they play Ryder and Stony Brook?
Yes, they play Ryder on Monday and Stony Brook on Wednesday.
Stony Brook just lost to somebody big. I can't remember who.
St.
it was.
John's, I think.
St. John's, that's right. And St. John's is a better team than Nebraska. But they did, yep, that's right. And so, then they play Oregon State. And we'll be able to preview that next
It's a good schedule for Nebraska.
Right.
I really like, go win games. Don't worry about overloading and playing Oklahoma and who else did they play last year? They played about 3 or 4 games
Memphis.
in a row. Memphis.
Yeah.
Just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're
Jump out of the gym, Memphis.
You're Nebraska. You don't have to. You're not trying to make the
Agreed.
top 20. You're trying to win games. So I just the Casey dynamic will be. He's not just a fun guy. He's also a leader, and I wonder how he elevates himself, Wilson, with this, being a year older and coming off a second half of last season where he really took over. But he won't have to take over games every time.
No,
They got those guys inside. That is Walker was good inside. He could score. But I think these guys they're like a 2-man tag team. I mean, it's going to be something else.
All right, we're going to talk recruiting here at the end. Thank you, Tom, for your insight. We'll start with Nebraska, and then I'm going to talk a little Creighton here at the end. So Creighton signed a great class. They signed the number 14 class in the country. They got one guy from your neck of the woods. You're obviously from Minneapolis.
Not just Minneapolis, but western suburbs. That's like 10 minutes away from me.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a minute. He's interesting. He's really interesting. But let's start with Nebraska. So Braden Frager decides to reclassify. He's a Lincoln Southwest junior. He's going to finish high school in 3 years and play next season for Nebraska. Why?
They think he's ready. Fred specifically mentioned his body. He thinks he has a body that's ready to get thrown into the Big Ten. I mean, he's got a nice left-handed shooting stroke, and that'll translate to any level of basketball. So I think that the bigger thing is just they think he's physically ready to hang with these. You won't have to play against them, but these Josiah Alex, these dudes who take joy in slamming into you when a shot goes up. They think he's ready to handle that.
Yeah, I think it's going to put a lot of spotlight on him this year.
Absolutely.
At the high school level. Obviously he committed to Nebraska. I think he had a Creighton offer too, but he was going into his senior year, or he was going into his junior year, and so now that there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on Frager. Like, well, wait a minute. This guy, now all of a sudden, this guy's going to play right now, huh? Is he going to be the best player in the state? don't think that would have been what we would have said about him last year. I think Josiah Dosler was the best player in the state last year. And so is he going to be that player? Obviously Nebraska likes the thing about him. What else did they say? I mean, because Fred just got done with his presser. Was it their enthusiasm about what he can bring to the table?
I would say so. I think they mentioned him and the other signer, Nick Janowski. And this has been a theme Fred has harped on a lot, just in the off season and ahead of this season of the guys they look for. And he thinks both of them, and since we're talking about Frager, Braden Frager really fit in this kind of tough, gritty identity that they're trying to build. I mean, it probably goes hand in hand with the speak of that his body's ready. He's mentally ready. They think to handle this jump, to do what Nebraska needs him to do, which we're a year out. Who knows what that specifically that will be as a freshman? But they think he's ready, and they think he has the mentality, the maturity to jump right in.
So let's go to Creighton here for a second. Creighton signs a 3-player class. It's ranked number 14 in the country, which is good, right? It's not Duke. It's not Cooper Flagg and whatever, but it's a very good class for Creighton. And probably the headliner of the class in terms of rankings is Jackson McAndrew, who is a 6'9" forward out of Wayzata. Is that how you say it?
Wayzata.
Wayzata. There you go. Wayzata, Minnesota. And, this is a guy that they certainly hope becomes, he's a skinny guy. So he's more of a Mason Miller type, the guy that's on their team now. But I think they would love for him to become, a primary scorer. Certainly had really good offers. I think Wisconsin was there at the end. I'm always curious to see what they say. He picked him over Xavier and Notre Dame or the other schools. Xavier has had a couple of guys like this that have been on their team before. I don't know about Notre Dame. I don't watch enough Notre Dame basketball to know. And quite honestly, Wisconsin has struggled to get this kind of player. They can get the big galoot that's 4 feet from the rim, but this guy's probably a taller version of Wall at Wisconsin and similar to a Mason Miller. But I think they probably would love to see him, McAndrew, come in and be a contributor right away. And Miller, I think, has taken a couple years to get to that ramp. So there's him. Larry Johnson, 6'4", 175 pounds, top 100 guy out of Southern California Academy, but he's originally from Savannah. He picked Creighton over Illinois, Mississippi State, Missouri, and Virginia Tech. I think it'd be fair to say that they would love for him to be another Trey Alexander. Now, that's not saying he's going to be, because Trey's a unique scorer, gifted in certain ways, but Johnson's a good athlete, and I think he's going to bring a lot to the table defensively. So I think they're happy with him. And I'll tell you what, I'll be really honest. The guy that I like maybe the most is this Ty Davis. He's from a Mountain Brook High School in Alabama. And, he's a little raw. I think it says here he averaged 18 points, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds. He's tall. He's long. He doesn't have to score to dominate a game. I think he can do other things. He can affect a game in a number of ways. I think he's an all-around guy. And he picked Creighton, according to this, over Oregon and Northwestern, which gives you a sense of, what he was looking at. I think Oregon was probably his number 2. But what I would say about this guy is he's got some glue ability. And, somebody that can maybe make everybody on the court better. Greg McDermott says that. He says as much. Ty is blessed with the ability to make everyone around him better. Unselfish approach to the game. So I think McDermott likes that this guy can kind of come in and this isn't a name that you're going to recognize, but Grant Gibbs, kind of a little bit of everything. McAndrew is a guy that you're obviously hoping comes in and shoots the lights out. And then Larry Johnson, you're hoping is a mid-range scorer. But I think it's a good class for them.
Yeah.
They're going to lose a couple of guys after this year. Kalkbrenner's going to be gone. Trey Alexander's going to be gone. Baylor Shireman's going to be gone. They're all gone. I mean, Trey doesn't have to leave, but maybe he does. I don't know. Trey's going to be gone. So Trey will be gone. Baylor will be gone. Kalkbrenner will be gone. At that point, you're looking at the guys on that roster. Ashworth will be back for another year. Doetzer will probably move into that starting lineup, and then you're thinking about, okay, where do the points come from? Because when you go Trey, Kalk, Shireman, that's 48 points a game. Thereabouts, maybe more. I mean, it could end up being 50, 52, 53 if all these guys maximize their scoring. So you're going to have to replace a lot. Now they'll go to the portal, but I think their hope is that 2 or 3 of these guys can come in and supplant some of that right away, especially McAndrew. Another guy that Minnesota didn't get. And Wisconsin didn't get him in there. Wisconsin put a lot into him.
Yeah. That's a minor win for Minnesota right there.
Wisconsin put a lot into getting this guy, and then they put a lot into getting some 7-footer from around Madison, and he didn't go there either. So, interesting times for Greg Gard. Did you see any Big Ten games? Michigan State lost.
I didn't watch that one because Nebraska was playing at the same time. I did watch Indiana struggle against Florida Gulf Coast in a kind of unserious performance for the first 30 minutes.
I watched that last night, yeah.
Put it away. Yeah, I mean, that's a weird team. They're losing they lost most of their production last year. When you think Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino was like 70% of that team, both with their scoring and just the shots other guys got from either Hood-Schifino setting them up or all the attention going on Trace down low. So they're kind of a work in progress. They showed some grit, to
how'd you think the transfer played? Khalil Ware.
Yeah, he was great. I think he was probably their MVP that game. Yeah, first career double-double. But yeah, they're going to be kind of a work in progress. Now the quote Mike Woodson said after is, "I've got a lot of work to do," and it's a young team. It's a team still figuring itself out. So, you never want to be sweating out games against Florida Gulf Coast at the end, but this it's a long, winding road to march, and Indiana's kind of an interesting wild card.
We'll see. By the end of next week, I think you're going to see multiple teams in the Big Ten with losses. Michigan State, I think, is the only one out of the gate, but that'll change. Yeah. That's going to change pretty quickly. So, we'll see. I was going to lose to Creighton unless they have a night that they'll never forget. Yeah. They'll have to beat Creighton 98-95 in order to win. They're not going to lock them down. So, we'll see. Iowa's got a freshman that had 14 points on 8 of 9 shooting, or 16 points on 8 of 9 shooting. Owen Freeman, who I know nothing about, from Moline. I didn't even know they played good basketball in Moline, but apparently they do. And Owen Freeman, a freshman, where do they get him? Like, it's just like, I'll tell you what, I'll give Fran McCaffrey this much credit. They find a way to get recruits who can play. Yeah. And they're all local. The Murrays were local. The Sanfords are local.
Gets his own kids in there.
Yeah, his kids are obviously local. This kid Freeman's from Moline. They do a good job of recruiting their region. And then they get players who can play, and I credit him with that because they don't get a lot of transfers, and frankly, I don't know there's a lot of guys that would want to transfer there.
They got one intriguing transfer, Ben Cricky.
And he had a good game.
Yeah.
So he's the Valpo guy. Yep. Now, if you listen to the whispers out there, now Iowa really wanted Mast first, and they settled for Cricky. Other people are like, no, they wanted Cricky, and Nebraska wanted Cricky, but Iowa got Cricky, and so they got Mast instead. Like the two guys are kind of together. Yeah. They're tethered together because there's speculation as to whether Iowa actually wanted Mast first. You'll hear the Nebraska, not the Nebraska people, but you'll hear that rumbled. Yeah. That Nebraska got the guy Iowa wanted. And then you'll hear Iowa people say, actually, Iowa got the guy Nebraska wanted. We'll find out who's better.
Yeah.
Because they're both going to play basically the same kinds of schedules.
Oh, yeah.
And Creaky had a very good first game. I don't know what his numbers were, but sometimes I got to look. Like, one of the things I want to try to do, and I know it's your beat, but I'm going to do this, is check on the guys that Nebraska didn't get in the portal and how they did. Because they went after a bunch of guys that they did not get. One of them, Kurt Kriisa, is not playing right now. Or did he play? I don't know.
He was the one who was suspended, right? At West Virginia? Yeah.
For somehow taking a payment that wasn't covered by NIL. You got to love it. Hunter Sallis had 19 points. Hello, Thad, our former boss. It's Hunter's stepdad. Hunter had a good game. He had 19 points. I'm happy for him. So Hunter Sallis had a good game down at Wake Forest. Latrell Wrightsell Jr., what did he do in his first game with Alabama? He's having a homecoming, by the way, when Alabama comes up here. He had 5 points. So not quite the same thing as Hunter did. But we'll see how that goes. I'll have to look up the other guys. There's 2 guys at Oklahoma. There's a couple other guys. I don't know. They went through a lot of guys. And then they got Aaron Ewis, and now Aaron Ewis can't play, and so they went out and got Boogie Coleman. How'd you think Boogie played? Is it Coleman? Yeah, it's Coleman.
Yeah. He played well. I think he's shown what he could do. I thought he played very well in the exhibition, as well. A guy who can. He's looked comfortable running the fast break. He's had a couple kind of fancy passes. Setting guys up on the break. I think he's done what he was supposed to do. What they brought him in for, which is come off the bench, play some solid point guard minutes.
Eli Rice and Machar Diop, I think, got a little bit of a welcome to college basketball, didn't they?
Yeah. Rice struggled from the field. That's not always going to be the case. He can shoot. He's got the stroke. I know the big thing for him is going to be defense, how well he can keep up from that end.
Well, but this ain't Spain and this ain't Dome.
Yeah.
And you saw it.
Yeah.
He went to go get his little shot, mid-range jumper, 12 feet, and it went off the back rim.
Yeah.
It's just not so simple.
Yeah.
Even against Lindenwood. Yeah. And Diop didn't play much. He got in at the end.
He got in at the end, yeah. And, he showed enough to be intriguing for sure. He had an emphatic block, a big dunk. He took a 3-pointer that Fred said afterward he was not a fan of.
Don't do that again.
Yeah, but, he's this is going to be kind of a developmental year for Diop, and I still think there's going to be a point when they need him in meaningful minutes off the bench, especially if Blaise Keita is still out, which he will be for quite some time. And but yeah, he showed enough. He's definitely fun. He comes off and you see this guy, is the tallest player on the court, and you're like, okay, what's he gonna do? And he finished inside, blocked some shots.
The least advised 3-pointer in Nebraska basketball since Ivan Ouedraogo took one. You probably know who that is.
I do not.
Once he took it, he was pulled off the court. And Fred mentioned it in his postgame. Did you see him take that 3-pointer? Okay. And he noted Matar's too, which tells you that Fred rarely goes out of character, but when he does, it's usually pretty funny. Yeah. So. And you saw him pull out the glasses.
Yep.
And not put on the glasses.
Yeah, just hover them in front of his face.
It's a microscope or something. All right, that's our Half Court Press podcast for this week. For Wilson, I'm Sam. We'll be back next week to recap Iowa, Creighton, and recap Nebraska against one of these teams from the Northeast and preview the Oregon State game in Sioux Falls. Thanks.